The morning sunlight poured through the towering glass walls of the city's most successful technology company, casting long golden reflections across polished marble floors. Hundreds of employees had gathered in the massive auditorium, unaware that before the day ended, a single forgotten voice would rewrite the future of an entire corporation. The CEO stood confidently on stage, ready to announce a life-changing offer worth $750,000. Cameras rolled, reporters waited, and every eye focused on the stage. Yet no one noticed the elderly janitor quietly sweeping near the back wall. No one imagined that within minutes, he would whisper just one word that would freeze the room in silence and uncover a truth buried beneath decades of ambition, regret, and forgotten promises. Before we begin this unforgettable story, if you believe kindness can change lives and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Tales Story. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to people around the world. The company, Bright Horizon Systems, had become one of the fastest-growing technology businesses in America. It was built from nothing by its brilliant founder and CEO, Adrian Mercer, whose determination transformed a tiny rented office into a billion-dollar empire. Newspapers admired his business genius. Television programs celebrated his discipline. Investors trusted his every decision. Yet behind the polished interviews and expensive suits lived a man who had spent 30 years believing that success could erase every sacrifice he had ever made. He owned luxury homes, private aircraft, and collections of rare art, but every evening he returned to an empty mansion where silence echoed louder than applause. That particular morning was unlike any other. Adrian had announced a company-wide event that everyone was required to attend. Rumors spread through every department. Some believed the business had been sold. Others expected thousands of layoffs. A few whispered about a revolutionary product launch. Nobody guessed the real reason. For months Adrian had secretly planned to retire. His doctors had recently warned him that years of relentless stress were beginning to damage his health. He decided to leave behind something larger than buildings or profits. He wanted to reward the employee whose work had made the greatest difference in the company's history. The prize would be $750,000, enough to change an ordinary family's future forever. Managers smiled confidently, believing one of them would receive the reward. Engineers reviewed their accomplishments in their minds. Senior executives imagined paying off homes, starting charities, or retiring early. Everyone believed the winner would come from the highest levels of leadership. Far away from the excitement, on the quiet service hallway behind the auditorium, 71-year-old janitor Malcolm Rhodes slowly pushed his worn cleaning cart across the polished floor. Every movement revealed years of hard labor. His uniform was faded despite being carefully washed. His hands carried countless tiny scars collected from decades of honest work. Most employees knew him only as the friendly man who always arrived before sunrise and stayed long after sunset. Few realized he had worked in the building since the company consisted of only 12 employees sharing one small office. Malcolm had never asked for recognition. Every paycheck helped support his disabled granddaughter, whose medical treatments consumed nearly everything he earned. After losing both his daughter and son-in-law in a tragic highway accident. Years earlier, Malcolm became the little girl's only guardian. Every morning he quietly promised himself he would keep working as long as his body allowed because someone at home depended on him. The auditorium filled with applause as Adrian stepped onto the stage. Behind him a giant screen displayed photographs chronicling the company's extraordinary journey from humble beginnings to international success. Employees cheered every milestone. Investors smiled proudly from the front row. Television crews captured every emotional moment. Adrian spoke passionately about perseverance, innovation, teamwork, and dreams. His voice carried confidence, yet beneath every sentence rested a strange heaviness. He admitted that wealth had given him comfort but not peace. He confessed that somewhere along the journey he had forgotten why he started the company in the first place. His words surprised many people who had always viewed him as nearly unstoppable. Finally he revealed the announcement everyone had been waiting for. He explained that one employee would receive $750,000 as recognition for extraordinary dedication and lasting impact on the company. Gasps swept across the room. Smiles appeared everywhere. Some employees quietly squeezed each other's hands in nervous excitement. Adrian unfolded a sealed envelope containing the winner's name. At that exact moment, Malcolm quietly passed behind the final row of seats, collecting discarded coffee cups before the ceremony ended. He wasn't listening closely. His attention remained on finishing his work before lunchtime. Then something unexpected happened. As Adrian prepared to read the name aloud, Malcolm glanced toward the stage. His tired eyes met the large screen showing one of the company's oldest photographs. The faded image displayed 12 smiling employees standing beside the first tiny office. Malcolm suddenly stopped walking. His lips moved almost without thought. He whispered one simple word. Promise. The word was barely audible. Yet Adrian heard it. His hands froze. The envelope slipped slightly from his fingers. The confident expression disappeared from his face as though someone had opened a forgotten door inside his memory. For several endless seconds, silence filled the auditorium. Nobody understood why. Adrian slowly turned toward the back of the room, searching through hundreds of faces until his eyes found Malcolm standing beside his cleaning cart. Time seemed to stand still. Years earlier, before investors, before headlines, before wealth, Adrian had been a frightened young entrepreneur unable to pay office rent. One terrible winter evening he had sat alone wondering whether to close the business forever. Malcolm, then working as the building's nighttime custodian, had quietly noticed the exhausted young founder sitting in darkness. Without asking questions, Malcolm had shared his homemade dinner. He had listened without judgment. Before leaving that night, Malcolm had offered one sentence Adrian never forgot. He had said that if success ever came, never let money become more important than people, because every company begins with a promise to make life better for someone. Adrian had shaken his hand and promised he would never forget those words. But he had. Until now. The auditorium watched as Adrian slowly stepped away from the podium. Cameras followed him in confusion. Executives exchanged nervous glances. He walked directly toward Malcolm. Employees instinctively made space as the billionaire CEO crossed the enormous room without saying a word. When he finally stood before the elderly janitor, Adrian's eyes filled with tears that years of success had never allowed him to shed. The audience watched in stunned silence as the most powerful man in the company embraced the oldest janitor like a long-lost member of his family. Many employees had never seen Adrian show emotion. Some reporters quietly lowered their cameras. Adrian returned to the stage, carrying Malcolm's worn cleaning gloves in his hands. Instead of opening the envelope, he placed it gently on the podium. He admitted something nobody expected. The competition itself had been built on the wrong question. He had searched for the employee who generated the greatest profits. He should have searched for the person who created the greatest humanity. He explained that every achievement, every billion-dollar contract, every innovation, and every international office existed because one ordinary man had prevented a discouraged young entrepreneur from giving up decades earlier. Without Malcolm's kindness, Bright Horizon Systems would never have existed. The audience sat speechless. Many executives who had overlooked Malcolm for years suddenly realized they had walked past the true foundation of the company every single day without seeing him. Adrian announced that the original award would not be given according to performance reports or executive recommendations. Instead, Malcolm Rhodes would receive the entire $750,000. The room erupted into thunderous applause unlike anything the company had ever experienced. Employees stood together, clapping until their hands hurt. Some openly cried. Malcolm himself seemed unable to understand what was happening. He had never expected recognition. He had simply done what kindness required many years ago. When reporters later asked Adrian why one whispered word had changed everything, he answered that success had buried his memories beneath endless meetings and financial goals. The word, promise, reminded him that people never become great by collecting wealth. They become great by remembering the hands that lifted them when nobody else believed in them. The story spread across newspapers, television networks, and social media. Millions watched the recording of the emotional ceremony. Messages arrived from around the world describing teachers, nurses, janitors, bus drivers, mechanics, and countless ordinary workers whose quiet kindness had transformed lives without recognition. Yet the greatest miracle happened far from the cameras. Malcolm used part of the money to secure lifelong medical treatment for his granddaughter. For the first time since losing her parents, the little girl smiled without worrying about hospital bills. He renovated a modest home where she could safely grow, study, and dream. The remaining money surprised everyone. Instead of spending it on luxury, Malcolm established a scholarship for children of custodians, cafeteria workers, maintenance staff, and other overlooked employees whose families often struggled to afford higher education. He believed dignity should never depend upon someone's job title. Inspired by Malcolm's humility, Adrian completely changed the culture of Bright Horizon Systems. Executive parking spaces disappeared. Leaders spent one day every month working alongside cleaning crews, cafeteria teams, receptionists, and maintenance workers. Employee appreciation programs shifted their focus from profits alone to acts of compassion, honesty, and service. Within 3 years, the company became known not only for innovation but also for extraordinary workplace respect. Productivity increased. Employee turnover fell dramatically. Customers trusted the business more deeply than ever before because kindness had become part of its identity rather than merely a slogan displayed on office walls. Visitors entering the headquarters noticed something unusual. Near the entrance stood a simple bronze plaque. It did not honor the founder. It did not celebrate billion-dollar milestones. Instead, it carried a single sentence. Every great future begins with one forgotten act of kindness. Thousands paused to read those words every year. Many left inspired, some left in tears, and every morning, sunlight continued pouring through the same glass walls where one whispered word had once stopped time. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to Kindness Tales Story so together we can spread more stories that remind the world compassion still matters. Special request: comment below with the one word that represents kindness to you. We would love to read every single response. Sometimes the richest gift is not money, fame, or success. Sometimes it is a promise remembered after many years. Because the smallest act of kindness, offered without expecting anything in return, may become the invisible foundation of someone else's greatest achievement. And perhaps today, somewhere in the world, a quiet soul is waiting for one kind gesture that could change everything forever.